What up, James?
How's it going?
Thanks for hopping on with me, man.
Yeah, likewise.
Everybody who's listening, I was just like, hey, James, you're doing something incredible. Let me get you on here, and let's talk about the scoop and your journey into this entrepreneurship journey, and let everybody know what it's all about. I've seen you talking about it a lot personally, but I haven't seen a lot of people like interview you and ask kind of some deeper questions here because it's hard starting your own thing. But
It
before
is.
we jump into that, let's you and I troll a couple of our friends on LinkedIn that are really popular. That
Okay,
sound like fun?
let's do it.
All right. I've got a couple of people flagged here. I'm going to start with our good friend Kobe Hakalier. And Kobe, you gotta see this. You gotta comment on whether I'm murdering your last name and doing it right or not. Is it Hakalier? Hakaler? I don't know, man, but you gotta help. Anyway, Kobe, you've left us plebs and you have ascended into the spotlight, it looks like you're gonna be on the last word in the Christmas commentary. You've joined the ranks of Brian View, Kevin Peranio, and Christy Sukumnut. I just want to say that man, you've really stepped up your LinkedIn game. I would say over the last like year, you're definitely more knowledgeable than I am. I learn a lot from you in the mortgage industry. Um, James, help me out here, man. We got to throw this guy under the bus. Like he just looks good here, you know?
I really like Kobe. Yeah, so Kobe's actually a Brooklyn boy, and he grew up not too far from where I live right now. So I can't hate too much on Kobe. You're right though. Like his LinkedIn game dramatically better than it was a year or two ago.
Yeah,
And I think it's because he's not afraid of putting things out there and taking principled but sometimes unpopular stances. So big
yeah.
ups to Kobe.
Well, I mean, maybe we'll make this like NBA, like an NBA kind of press commentary. This is not a
Both teams
young.
played hard.
Yeah, he's played hard. I mean, it's not like a young rookie, but he is kind of like a rookie, I would say, in the LinkedIn world. And man, this is one to keep your eye on, right?
But would he push you over the apron if you sign him? That's the question.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what we'll find out, right? Uh, Kobe, you're a bright shining star, brother. Greg, sure, I'm going to throw a post that came across that, all of your posts get a lot of attention, brother. And you do a lot of good for the industry. This one was pretty sensational. I think you kind of, I don't know, on a quick read, it looks like a couple big organizations might have been prodded a little bit. I don't want to say thrown under the bus, but prodded for sure. Maybe a little prodded aggressively. Uh, James, I love how you don't pull punches, by the way, Greg. Please don't change. And you can see by the viewership, people love it too, right? So, James, tell me, what's your take?
Oh, it's an interesting one. So I agree that the credit reporting system we have right now is dysfunctional, and I don't think it makes any sense. And if you need all three reports to provide a realistic picture of someone's credit worthiness, I think that's an indictment of the individual abilities. Now, there are a lot of different reasons that and you know this better than I do, probably, Richard. Um, I don't know that having one score is the answer either. There are so many variabilities. There are a lot of different entities that don't report to all three bureaus. They report to one of them, and so maybe that score is not the score. I'd be more comfortable with two. But having said all of that, I think we're having the wrong conversation, probably because it's third rail. I think the conversation should be, if we were to start fresh, how would we do this? And I don't think it would look anything like what it does right now, like anything like it. But there are so many counterparties, there are so many hands in the cookie jar, all the way down, not just FICO. It's FICO, it's the bureaus, it's all the CRAs, there are hundreds of them. The lenders have their own reason for wanting certain changes and not others, right? And so I think the consumer is just kind of stuck and doesn't really have a voice here.
Yeah, my take is I want what's best for the borrower. I always do.
Yeah.
And so, if it's more expensive for the borrower, I don't like that. And if it's harder for them to get into a home, I also don't like that. So, I agree with you. Let's take a fresh look at it. And I think if I was at the helm, I would say let's take a look at it and try and piece together ideally how it would be and keep the lens on what's best for the borrower. That's how I would look at it.
I don't think it would be too difficult for a government entity, whether it's the FHFA or someone else, to say, you know what, the borrower can pull their own score and they can do it once. And then, the others just have to fall in line. And whenever they want to pull it, provide it to a different lender, maybe they're shopping around on rates, right? Then they could just pull it again and the lender doesn't have to do anything, or there's a passcode and they just, grab the passcode. There are a lot of different ways that this could be a smoother process that is better for consumers. But, everyone has their own individual reason for changing it or keeping it the same.
Awesome. Last one I got before we jump into this interview, James, because let's not forget you're the star of the show today. Patrick O'Brien, my man
Yes.
from Lender Logics. Patrick, you're one of my favorite because you're so fun and you're just hilarious. At this post was it made me chuckle. I think it made a lot of people chuckle. Basically, Patrick called IT support and they told him to delete his cookies. And well, it made Patrick angry. And Patrick, I just want to let you know I'm right there with you, brother. I've deleted my cookies and I have 10,000 tabs open, as you can see on my desktop. No one is making me close my tabs or delete my cookies either, brother. James, you got anything?
I love Patrick. I think they're doing fun stuff. I just profiled Patrick and his team in Buffalo for a series that I'm doing on the Mortgage Scoop, where I'm looking very almost like vignettes, profiles of mortgage tech companies, and trying to figure out, strategically, where do you go if you're not in the POS space and you're in Encino or Blend? How do you strategize? How do you win market share? Who do you target, right? And so he was very candid about the strategies that they're putting in place, and they have over 150 clients now, and they're doing it in the Silicon Valley of the Southern Tier, Buffalo, New York. So big props to Patrick as well.
James, I love what you're doing with the Mortgage Scoop. For example, I just saw you do a post about. And they're not just posts. You're not just posting the news. You're actually going out there and getting, doing interviews and getting information that is not available in other places. So it's
Mhm.
unique to you. I saw you do a post on Sierra Pacific and Union, right? And then you followed it up again with Jay Promisco going to Go Mortgage, right? And doing an interview about not just that it happened, but like what does it mean and what are the implications of it, right? And talking to people who are closely involved. I see that a lot of the time, and you don't see that in any of the other publications. What you see is people just regurgitating facts. And I just want to give you props on being different and being awesome.
I appreciate that. I think one of the challenges in news in every news vertical, whether it's business reporting, mortgage, real estate, right, or others, is that a lot of it is just seen as disposable. I read the headline, maybe I read the first sentence or half of the article. I got what I needed. That was the news. I digested, and then this is a very inelegant way to phrase it, but I shit it out, right? Like it's not very sustainable as a model. And so what I really want to do is, instead of just gathering the news and reporting just a couple facts and moving on to the next thing, asking the why question, because I think there's a lot more stickiness when you sit down and consider the second order effects or the implications of doing something. And it's one of the reasons I've focused on trend reporting instead of kind of company or person specific reporting, because I just think there's a lot more interest in trying to untangle some of the big hairy issues than just saying this person did this and that was that.
Well, how is it going with the Mortgage Scoop? Just
It's good.
and how are you doing, James? I mean, like everybody knows, everybody
Like as
loves
a
you,
person.
man. Like you're definitely loved. You can see it in the comments on anything you post, right? People just love James Kleimann. So like you've garnered, I think, a lot of friendships in the industry, and so I'm just curious, how is it going for you personally and professionally right now?
Yeah, that's oh wow, that's a layered question. I'd say that the first thing is um, when you do decide to do something very different, not everyone is going to love it, and I'm okay with that. I've made peace with that. I don't feel like I have to make everyone happy. What I wanted to do is radically different than what I think you find in mortgage trade reporting, and I wanted to not just play nice with everyone and just say whatever the status quo is, whatever other people are talking about. I just want to let people have those conversations and just sort of, you know, step into the background. I wanted to do more aggressive reporting. I wanted to provide more transparency. I wanted to ask harder questions to people that I think have been used to kid gloves. And doing so is always going to, I think, win a lot of fans, but also upset some folks who are accustomed to more pay to play and just softer coverage, right? And I understand that. I'm not here to go out of my way and upset businesses, but I do think that when we're talking at the end of the day about borrowers, we're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about big strategic changes in an industry that is literally built for consumers, right? And I think people forget a lot about the end result there. And so, yeah, I mean, it's hard. It would have been a lot easier for me to have gone out there and did something similar to what everyone else is doing and done pay to play and made a lot more money and not upset anyone, not pissed anyone off, not done anything controversial or risky. But I don't think there's a lot of value in that. I think there's a lot of places you can find that style. And so I wanted to do something purposely more in your face, right? And so personally, it's been challenging, like and I've never done anything entrepreneurial in my life. Like I've never had a lemonade stand.
Yeah.
Uh, I never knew how to do marketing or sales or distribution. And I had been doing some variation of this job since I was 18 years old. I've been doing this my entire adult life, just reporting and editing and managing people. I've never challenged myself to do something very different, and in the way that I think makes the most impact on an industry. And so if you don't take a big swing, like you probably never will. And but it's hard, I don't sleep as well as I used to. I don't have as much money as I used to. And I've got little kids, I got a family. Like there are moments where I'm stressed out, but there is a lot of support out there. I do think that people enjoy reading something that is just a little bit spicier than what they're accustomed to, and it has a personality. And like I think this is a dynamic industry and a dynamic business, and if you can't find fun and creativity in it, I don't think you're challenging yourself. So yeah, I mean it's kind of a mixed bag in some ways, but it's more fun when you own it, right? And so yeah, I'm owning it, the good and the bad.
I have a soft spot for all entrepreneurs. I started my own company, tech company, and it didn't end up working out, but I raised some VC money from like Techstars and
Nice.
organizations like that. I know what it's like to be getting no paycheck essentially and just trying to get it going. That's why I'm on the side. I try and help companies. I'm advising a startup loanscape.io who is also starting out. I people who I have believe in, I like to help. So I'm trying to help get a spotlight on you, James. I
Nice.
think that what you're
Appreciate that.
doing is awesome. Um, but I want to like dive into you just said edgy questions, so I'm going to give you more of an edgy question here. Let's like pull the
Yeah.
heartstrings a little bit. Like you had a stable job, right? And you left it to do the mortgage scoop and you just had a newborn, right? Like at the same
Yeah.
time. I got twins, man. They're 6 years old, but I remember when they were born and I know what it's like to be living. I mean, it's so expensive to have a kid, right?
Yeah.
And all the childcare that goes
Two
along with
kids.
it right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I can imagine where your mind was at doing that and having the confidence to take this step into this journey. Tell me a little bit about that decision-making process. You had to have had some conversations at home being like, James, what the hell are you talking about? Like,
Like the problem, the biggest challenge is a very American problem in that the most agita that I received was just worrying about health insurance. So my wife also works in media and she's got a good job and she does very well and she's at the biggest publisher in America. And the biggest publisher in America often has layoffs. They change the chairs at the table sometimes. And so my concern was not so much if this succeeded or not, but if she lost her job and we had to go into the open market to try to get health care for a family of four in Brooklyn, New York. I mean, it would be like $7,000, $8,000 a month, right?
oh
Like,
my
I mean,
God.
it's insane. It's completely insane, right? So that was the concern. It was not so much would this work. I always had a lot of confidence that there was an opportunity to do a very different kind of. I don't even think of it as news. I think of it as like a conversation, an ongoing conversation with the industry. Where you can share hardships and challenges and wins, and kind of really get to know the people in the industry, and you write something for them, not you're talking at them and telling them this is the news. I think that's a misunderstanding of relational journalism. Like I think you really have to know the people you're trying to reach, and do so in the way that they want to be communicated with. And so that's why my stuff is kind of irreverent. But the conversations I had at home, I had talked about doing this probably 2 or 3 years prior to actually taking the leap. And and
Thank
it
you for
was
doing
always
that, saying that, by the way, because like you see on all the different social media profiles, you see people proposing to women, and they obviously haven't had the conversation before they propose, and you're like, "What are you doing in front of the whole world at this ball
Oh
game
no, like the
proposing?"
Jumbotron proposal. Like
Oh
no,
my
no, no.
God,
I would die of shame. No, so I'm fairly introverted actually, but I wanted to do something because what people don't realize if they're not in media is that the entire platform has shifted in media. It used to be 5 years ago, I would not be able to do this. And that's because you wouldn't be able to find a publishing platform. You wouldn't be able to grow an audience. SEO is so tilted in favor of incumbents, and it would have taken you so long to try to build something organically, that you'd probably run out of money, or die by stress before ever getting it off the ground. But because there are so many platforms, like Substack is the best known, but there are a bunch of them, and you can really control distribution. And because media itself is splintered, right? Like it's no longer, think about celebrities that you follow. It's no longer just the people you see in Us Weekly. They're like TikTok stars and YouTubers. Like we're seeing a fragmentation in just the ability to reach others and do so cheaply. And so I'm able to launch a business by just going to a Delaware, LLC and getting registered, getting a business bank account down the street at my local Bank of America, and getting Beehive for about $1,500. You could never have done that 5 years ago, right? So there's a major shift already occurring in media. And so if I had tried this even 3 years ago, it would have been a lot more difficult than it is now. So that's part of it. But the second part of it is just kind of getting the balls to do it. And if you think about most companies, the owner of the company really makes out. And often the workers are, even if they're well paid, even if they're doing well on a one-by-one basis, generally not actually making what the value that they're providing is. Like that's I'm not making a judgment about it. This is just how capitalism works in America, right? And so if you own something, you have a much bigger say in your future as long as it has value. And so if I think I can provide enough value, I have an opportunity to provide uh, more of a sustainable path for my family than just always trying to work for someone else and being subject to the whims of the market forces, or whether they feel good or bad that day, or decide that I'm not useful for their vision, right? So, what do they say? Seize the means of production, comrade. I know it's very communistic to say, but I really thought like this is America, and I think there's still a lot of opportunity. And if you have a real vision and you're principled like I think of this as a 20-year business, eventually this will succeed to the degree that I think, because I can outwork people. I know more people. I'll work harder. Media people cycle in and out, every 2, 3 years. You just don't learn enough. You don't know enough people where they trust you to do it over the long haul. So I mean, it's a simple formula.
No, I think honestly, there's riches in the niches, like they
Yep.
say.
Yep.
You look at folks like, and I don't know if you want me saying it, but like I'll say it. I believe in Rob Christman. I think he does a good job for what he does. I think it's totally different from what you're doing,
Mhm.
and I think he's been very successful with it, right? So
Totally.
that's like, I mean, I would say he's been wildly successful through his career at whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
They built something incredible. Yeah.
built something incredible. Exactly correct. So, there's to me, there's a lot, the whole media industry is so fragmented now. God, I'm watching the Australian Open and I've got there's four different types of subscriptions on ESPN to watch it, and not all the games are covered. And that's just one tournament, right? And one streaming service, right? So it's the consumers are
Frustrating.
faced with some real confusion. I think the real secret, I think, to success for a company starting like yours right now is just make sure people love what you're doing. You know what I mean? They'll find a way to access it. You know what I mean? They'll take matters into their own hand. And from what I've seen, your subscription is like nothing. So it's another, I mean, seriously, for for a year, you guys should go sign up while you can at the price that James has got. I think everybody should be. And I can't wait
Appreciate that.
until you starting up your sponsorship game. I would definitely support you, you know. For any businesses that I'm working at because I'm sure it's reaching the right audience. So let's keep going. I want to know like after you started when you were, your most stressful moment. Let's talk about that where you're like, man, did I just make a huge mistake doing this? Come on, everybody has those moments, right? Especially
Sure.
in a journey that you're going through.
I don't think there's one moment where I went, oh no, like what have I done? Like, have I made a huge mistake? I've always been pretty confident that um, I have this sort of personality where I can really dive rabbit hole into any subject and find interesting things about it. And I have been covering the mortgage space, or real estate or housing for about 10 years now. And for about half of it, I knew a little to a medium about a lot. And so it gave me a really good base to confidently report on the mortgage space. And I just like, I live and breathe this stuff. You know, I work probably 16-hour days 5 to 6 days a week. And
With a
my,
newborn.
yeah, well, he's 19 months old now.
Sorry.
And I have a 4-year-old as well who's a lunatic, an absolute crazy person. But what I never quite knew how hard overcoming would be is just everything else, right? Like I've always known how to report. I've always known how to frame interesting issues. I know a lot about the industry. I know a lot of people in the industry. I have a great network of sources. I never worried about being able to produce good content, and to do so creatively. But I did worry about everything else. And so like distribution, right? Like I've never tried to build a list organically. I've never done marketing. I've never done sales. I closed an advertising deal and I had to tell the guy, I have no idea what I'm doing, man. I have absolutely no idea. Like, help me out here. Does this work for you? Does this make sense? How do you do it with other people? Right. And so,
James,
but
I'll just say on that front, even
yeah,
companies rolling out products have no idea. If they're
really
rolling out a new product that they've
interesting.
never had someone purchase, they're like, well, how much do we charge for this thing? I don't know. How much are they paying right now for something similar? There's not
Yeah.
something similar? I have no idea. Let's just throw a price out
Right.
there and see if people will
I
pay
didn't
for
know
it.
how to do pricing. I had no idea. I was like, okay, well, what do the other companies that are sort of in this space charge? And I said, well, that's, you know, they're supporting a big infrastructure, right? They're supporting a lot of people. I don't need to charge those kinds of prices with little old me. And I do have a business partner, as well. But, you know, so I think the strategy really has been to provide something that's interesting. Like you genuinely look forward to reading it. It's not going to be doom and gloom. It's not going to be, hey, everything is sunshine and lollipops and kittens either. I want to give people the straight, you know, the straight truth of what's happening in the industry, but not write it like it's an AP article, right? Like I don't think anyone wants to read kind of the old, you know, journalism. Like I think it's boring. It's just absolutely boring. And so there was no singular moment where I went, oh shit, but it's a lot of like, there are a lot of oh shit moments during the week where I go, okay, well, how do I do this? Like, I don't know how to do this. Should I watch a YouTube video? Like, who do I call? Because there's no one I can call when I'm trying to troubleshoot a lot of media problems right now. So I just kind of have to figure a lot of it out. Um, I didn't make any money for about 3 months, so I had to cash out part of my 401k. Like, that was a little, you know, like I would rather not do that. But again, like I feel confident that this is a 20-year business. And
I've had to do that before buying a home. Man, the tax bill that comes with that is not
it
fun.
sucks. Yeah, no, it sucks.
That really sucks. And calculating it right so that you don't get dinged the next year, that also sucks.
Yeah, yeah. All of it sucks, right? So, it's every day is different and a unique challenge. But also it's my challenge, right? Like it's not anyone else's, and it means I really get to be creative about doing something different and providing a value that I don't feel is out there right now.
I love that. All right, let's on the other side of the coin, why don't you tell me like you know, at some point give me an example of something you've done. You can be recently or before where you're like you get that affirmation, right? This is a win. You know you're doing the right thing. Like I made the right choice.
Yeah, I get so much great feedback. I get incredible feedback from folks, just because, like I said, it's maybe a little bit of a controversial media publication, but there are people who absolutely obsess over it and love it and read it all the time. People who open the newsletter like 400 times and share it with all their friends and colleagues, and there's certainly a lot of buzz about it, which is great, and I love that. I would rather people read it and have a reaction to it than just, oh, okay, like someone wrote this thing and I forget about it 2 minutes later, right? And like I said, like some people don't like it, and I'm okay with that. I think you have to be okay with that. But I went to NBA annual in, God, it's always in Vegas. God, I freaking hate Vegas. But anyway, it's in Vegas, right? And I had just launched in late July, early August, something. Yeah, it must
You're
have
talking
been
about
August.
last year, 2025.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah. So I launched in August. I left Housing Wire in late July. It was the last day of July. And it didn't go the way that I expected, but like, it never does, right? And at NBA Annual, there must have been like hundreds of people that just came up to me and just chatted and told me how much they loved it and how interesting it was and gave me tips and that's really when you feel like you're doing it right, when people come up to you and like physically, we live so much in a digital landscape now and it's hard to really connect with people or know people. But yeah, I mean, like my sourcing has probably doubled over the last 6 months. I text about anywhere between 100 and 150 people every day to try to get news and information and just triangulate everything that I'm hearing. And so that's what makes me feel like this is working, because nobody would bother with me if it weren't. And so that's how I see this as kind of an early seedling of success.
So that's how the industry's changed in journalism now. It's a texting game, huh? I didn't
It's all
realize.
text. Yep. Yeah, I mean, like I'm old school. I love the phone. I love the phone call, and I try to make as many phone calls as possible. But increasingly, people just, I don't know, they get the ick on the phone for whatever reason. Like to me, there's nothing like a good chat by phone. But it's kind of a lost art, and texting is really what people prefer now.
Brother, I got a notification on my phone that said my average screen time last week per day was like 4.5 hours. And I was like, oh,
That's it.
thank you for making me feel better.
No, dude, mine
Oh
is like nine
man.
hours.
Oh
Mine is
my
like
God.
nine and change. Yeah, no, it's insane.
Dude, my wife was like, you have a problem. And I was
No,
like,
that's nothing. No, you don't. No, you're probably like in the top quintile of people who don't have a problem.
yeah, I can't. All right, you know what I'm going to do when I post this? I'm going to ask everybody whether I have a problem and whether, so I'm at 4.5, you're at over 9 hours.
Over nine. Yep.
Holy crap, that's a lot of texting.
Because I'm texting all day, all night. And
That's what
yeah,
I
I
said.
mean,
I
it's
was like,
just,
I'm in marketing. I'm like my in sales. Like my job is to be on my
dude,
phone like all the
yeah,
time, you know?
exactly. Yeah. I would be annoyed at someone who had like under 2 hours. Be like, what would you like, a Zen retreat somewhere? Like, no,
You just
your
walk your
job is to
dog all day
sell.
long for 12 hours a
Yeah,
day,
what
you
are you
know?
doing? Like, get on the fucking phone, man.
Dude, that is a quote right there for this post. What the hell are you doing? Get on your phone right now. You sound like what's that movie? The Glenn Gary leads, you know, like
Fun fact, I've only seen like 6 movies in my entire life. So
wow.
yeah,
Are you
just not a
kidding me?
movie
Are you
guy.
serious?
No, I'm serious. I don't
Like,
watch movies.
how about Star Wars? You had to have seen the original Star
I
Wars.
saw I saw the first one sequentially that came out. I haven't seen any of the others.
Man, you really don't watch movies.
I watch TV shows though. I love TV shows
Yeah,
because
we
they're
have.
character driven, right? Because you have to have a longer arc because it's a different format. I find the movie format not rich enough for me to spend 2.5 hours, or they're like 4 hours nowadays though.
They are.
I don't know,
They
like
are.
who, and they're all about superheroes. Like, I don't give a shit about superheroes. Like, what
Yeah. I agree with
is
that. I
this?
don't either. I like to have the feel. I like the feels. When I listen to songs, I like the
Yeah.
feels. When I watch TV shows, I like the feels. Like I want to feel it, get my emotions going. And falling in love with
I'm
a
with you.
character is a great way to do that.
Yep. I think that's a great parallel to what we see here. I think a lot of people are growing more numb and they're having fewer interactions. They're home more often. They're not out and about. They're not meeting people. And so when they do, like they're angry because all these algorithms are telling them to be angry or to feel something big, even though they're disconnected, right? Like it's through a screen. And so when I watch something, when I meet with someone, like I just want to feel something, right? So, but not anger, hopefully not anger. I'm not an
No,
angry person. So,
no, definitely not. Well, James, I want to give you a second here before ask my last question. I'm sorry, I got this cough. You mentioned a bunch of people that were super supportive of you when you saw them at NBA Annual. Um, why don't you just take a second, riff, just lay out the people you love that have supported you. I would love to let's just give them props, man. I'll call them out when I post this. Just to start throwing names.
yeah, Greg Sherry's been a huge supporter, especially in the beginning when I was like, dude, I don't know, am I crazy for doing this? And he's been really supportive. He's been really cool.
Who's
Brian
who's,
View's
who's
been
that? I don't
been
know. I don't know that guy.
It's like the most popular man in mortgage. Yeah. Brian View's been really supportive. Just a lot of folks. Matt Van Fossen's been awesome. He's been a big help. Courtney Todd. Like, I mean, I could go up and down the list. There are a million people who have been really gracious with their time and with their knowledge of the industry. And one of the best things about mortgage is that because everything is so bifurcated and there are
Yeah,
so many different wrinkles to it, like there's like an infinity amount of learning you can do. And so many people have just been really um, generous with their time and just sharing like, here's how this really works. Like, oh, no one's gonna write a post and kind of give away the Coke recipe, but here's how mortgage really works in this context
yeah,
or in this capacity, or here are the things that people who do risk analysis for a living are like actually worried about. Let me give you like come over here, like let me show you on my screen like where there are pockets of trouble and like FHA lending. Like this is where you want to start bringing your seatbelt to work. So that there's just been a lot of people like that, and a lot of my reporting is source driven, and so I have to also protect some of my sourcing. So I don't want to share too many names here,
yeah, of
because they're also in a lot of cases they have NDAs or they
course.
have good reasons for not publicly sharing the knowledge that they have. But no, it's been really awesome. I'm at around just under 5,000 subscribers right now, which has been great, and it's 100% organic. I don't do any email mark. I don't do any marketing. I don't even know how to do marketing. So
I hate marketing. Marketing
yeah,
sucks.
ugh. The marketing people are the worst,
So are
right?
salespeople. They're both
The
garbage.
worst.
Come with you.
Um, but no, seriously, I do need to figure out how to do marketing at some point because the goal, like, I really want to have. I feel like 10,000 would be a good number to hit, and I'm only a little bit under halfway there right now. So, yeah, I mean, if you have any tips, any suggestions, like, here's a good opportunity, right? You've got quite a bit of marketing experience. How do I reach people and let them know?
I think you do more of this. That's why I gave the opportunity to shout out people that you like because community is what it's all about, especially in our industry, right? So when you throw out
True.
those people's names, like they're gonna feel a little glow they're gonna come back and be like, I love you too, James. You know what I mean? So like it's gonna be a big James love fest on when I post this on LinkedIn. That's what I'm going for.
I
Uh
appreciate that.
and the
Rich Verbinski has also been really, really awesome. He's been a big help. Thomas Seelbinder has been an excellent supporter. There are so many people out there. I'm on the spot. It's like you ever see the people who go to the award shows and they're like, I just want to thank, and then they're like, fuck, who else am I
Yeah,
supposed to
there's so
thank? I
many
gotta
people, and
remember.
if I forget
There's
them,
so
they're
many
gonna hate me,
people.
you know?
Exactly, exactly. I feel like that right now.
It's all good, man. I would do the same thing. Well, let's wrap this up. It's 2026. Talk to me about 2027, 2028. What does success winning look like for you in the mortgage scoop in the coming years?
Like I said, I really want to get to 10,000 subscribers. I've been really happy growing organically, but I need to have a little bit more of a system in place. I'm not like an organized person. Are you familiar with the Muppet theory of the universe?
No.
Do you know the Muppets?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so there are two kinds of Muppets. There is order Muppets and there is chaos Muppets. So an order Muppet would be like a Kermit, right? And if you only have order Muppets, there's nothing happening. Like there's not enough fun, there's not enough going on. But if you only have chaos Muppets, like a Miss Piggy, right? Then nothing ever like you nothing gets solved. Like you either have no plot or you have so you need a little bit of both. I am an absolute chaos muppet. Like I just careen from text to story to whatever all day, and I never sit back and think like I'm gonna time block 2 hours or 3 hours and do marketing today. Like I'm just not a very structured, organized person, and I feel like my product kind of like shows that it's a little chaotic, right? And like that's okay. I think you should show who you are to people and be honest about it. But I really do need to get a little better organized and figure out like how do I start to hit certain milestones? Like I want to get this number of subscribers. I want to get this number of paid subscribers. I have two advertising slots filled right now. How do I get a third? How do I get a fourth? Like, there's so much more to running a business than just writing interesting stories. Like
Yeah, I
writing
was
interesting
talking to
stories, like
I don't mind interrupt you, but I talked to Bree Leese, who's really
yeah,
awesome.
preschool. Yeah, I like her.
Yeah, she said it to me best. She was like, "You got to be authentic the moment people sniff that you're not being authentic and you're doing it for the likes or the views or any BS like that, you're
You're out.
done. You're done,
Yep.
and there's no coming back from it either because they're gonna know."
Yep. Yeah. So like I don't use AI for any of my writing, any of my editing, like anything like that. I use it to generate these like pretty bad, if I'm honest, images. But it's like I can't just like mess around with graphic design. I can't spend like an hour trying to get like, you know, better at art because it's such a marginal value growth tool. But I think like people should throw all of these AI tools in the trash for their LinkedIn posts and social media posts and
I
whatever
don't
content they're
disagree,
doing.
man. I'd rather see
I think
misspellings
it's
and stuff like
garbage.
that. It's more
Yeah.
authentic.
Yeah. Like, Rick Rock,
Yeah,
his content is really smart. It's really insightful. And there are so many typos.
yeah.
Like the grammarian in me just wants to go like, Rick, like, homie, like, just like proofread it before you press publish. But I love that it's raw and I love that it's just sort of not like a stream of consciousness because it is very organized in scope and thought. But I like that it isn't AI, right? I think when you try to blend all of these things together and do some machine learning algorithm, you lose what makes you interesting. And so I will never do AI writing. I will never, it's just, I think what makes me different is that I have personality and that I add color into the stories. And if you make it into the sea of nothing like everyone else, what's your value, right? So, but I guess getting back to your initial question, yeah, I mean, I want to get more subscribers. I think it's a really interesting product. I provide about 75% of my content is completely free for everyone to check out. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, about 25% of it, the really juicy stuff, is behind a paywall because I need to feed these kids legally. I'm obligated to feed those kids and clothe them and stuff like that. So I do need to make a little bit of money on it, right? But I really I want people to be able to access content. Everything else is paywalled in mortgage media. Everything else is paywalled. And that's fine. Like, they have big businesses. And so I'm really trying to get as much of it free as possible. And so if I can get even more subscribers, that makes it more attractive to advertisers. And I can continue to keep less of it behind the paywall. So, yeah, that's kind of the business strategy for 26 and hopefully a little less traveling in the winter months because, winter breaks and stuff.
Awesome. James, man, I'm forever a supporter. Let's go, man. I'm in it with the mortgage scoop. I can't wait to see how big it's going to get over the next couple of years. And props to you, man, for all of the blood, sweat, and tears that you're putting into it to get started. I think I speak for everybody in the community saying, man, you're just killing it. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And this has been a lot of fun.